Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so game 3 is upon us tonight in Minnesota Target Center, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. And the Lakers are coming off a victory against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where our defense was really shining, but our offense continued to struggle, as it has been against this team pretty much all season long. We did lose game 1, as we know, scored 95 points, but scored 94 points in game 2 and got the victory. The difference was the defense. So let's get started. Since I'm looking at this particular website where it shows us the jerseys, the Lakers are going to be wearing yellow in Minnesota, and Minnesota is going to be wearing these road unis at home for game 3. I think that comes with their traditional floor. They have pretty good pick colors and stuff like that. Their franchise doesn't suck in that way, in my opinion. So I don't think it'll hurt to look at those uniforms, but we definitely want to beat them while they wear them. Our injury report, according to this thing, Maxi Kleber is out, no one else. Rob Dillingham is out, no one else for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we are healthy as we are expected to be. And hopefully that remains, because this is going to continue to be a very, very physical series, as it has been for the first 2 games. So yeah, ugly rock fights. That's really what this has been about, especially on our end. The offense has not come around. I think the emphasis should be on improving our offense, but also maintaining what we did in the game 2 defensively. And if we could put both together, we'll win that game, we believe. We know the Minnesota Timberwolves have a lot of athleticism and length. They have a lot of confidence, youth on their side. They could probably withstand a bit more of the punishment than we can. So the urgency to try to get 2 games in Minnesota should be at an all-time high. Getting the split just prolongs this, and of course losing both puts you in a position to have your back against the wall going home. So winning is the only solution to what we have concerns about, and it starts with us just really making improvements, not doing too much, hunting Rudy Gobert out with Luka Doncic, sacrificing ball movement and others getting involved. I think does not make us a better basketball team at all. Plus, the numbers is telling us that when we hunt Rudy Gobert that way, we're not exactly burning the world down. So we need to get it together by being a bit more willing to diversify offensively, I believe. We got to get something off of our bench as well. Dorian Finney-Smith, Vanderbilt, Goodwin, and Vincent, however minutes these guys get, they need to contribute to the scoring side of the things. It can't just be our starters scoring the ball and expecting for us to win this series. It's just, that's not realistic. We need something from our bench. I know that we've benched Dalton Connect, but we need scoring somehow, and I don't know if we're going to opt into improving in that area, but it's probably required if we're going to win the series. Gabe Vincent, Dorian Finney-Smith specifically. Jordan Goodwin hasn't been getting enough minutes. Hopefully that improves, and then we can start judging him on that regard. Vanderbilt, we never expect to score. Jackson Hayes has been so poor in this series that you don't expect for him to get too many more minutes than he's been getting. So I'm not going to say that I need him to score more, because I don't know that I need him on the floor more, to be honest with you. But I tell you this, we were a much better basketball team when we can count on about 10 to 15 points from all of those people. So the Lakers got to find something off their bench, man. I know our bench is not the most talented. In fact, it's one of the least talented benches in basketball in these playoffs. But just the same, we need to get it together and find some scoring somewhere other than Bron, Luka, Austin, and Rui, especially since Austin's kind of struggling in this series to find his scoring. It really hurts that we can't get it elsewhere. Rui Hachimura, 4 of 9. I like the attempts. Like I said, for me, I always want to see him get above, I think it's above 7. I don't remember what I've been saying all season, but somewhere above 7 attempts on the offensive end is very important for Rui's overall effectiveness. Asking him to do too much of anything else is kind of silly, to be completely honest with you. And we often do. His rebound is also important. He got 5 boards in that last game. I'd like him to stay around 5 for the rest of the series. I think that'll help a lot. We really did a good job on the glass. I would expect the Minnesota Timberwolves to try to crash that a bit harder tonight. Rudy Gobert walked away with 6 boards, the same amount as Mike Conley. And Ant-Man had 6 boards as well. That's just not enough rebounding for the Minnesota Timberwolves, especially when their offense was as poor as it was. We need to continue to try to control the glass And if we can do that, I like our chances as well. So they don't need second chance points. We've done a great job there. Let's not start bleeding in that area. Another area of improvement from game 1 to game 2 was our fast break points and points conceded off turnovers. We outsped them, so to speak, 13-6 in our fast break points. We love that. And we had 13 points conceded off of turnovers, which means that we were much better in transition defensively. I think that's key against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They do have some speed demons like Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels. These guys can speed at the rim. Naz Reid, DiVincenzo, Terrence Shannon, all these guys speed at the rim. They have the advantage there most of the time. I will expect that they try to get back on the winning side of that. We need to get ahead of that and make sure that we maintain our intensity in those two categories. And shooting the ball, both teams shot 20% from the three. I don't expect for that to continue. I think that's an anomaly. Just like Minnesota shooting, 50% from both the field and the three in the game 1. I do not expect for that to continue, to be completely honest with you. I just think there has to be some balance there that we're going to ultimately find ourselves settling into with our opponent there. Meanwhile, we just haven't shot over 40% at all in this series. Our offense is struggling. 39% from the field in game 1, 36% from the three in game 2. In game 1. That was also game 1. And in game 2, as I said, 20% from the three, and we did shoot 45% from the field in game 2. I guess it's noteworthy to mention that we have gotten worse offensively throughout the course of these quarters. When you look at game 1, game 2, we scored 34 points in the first quarter, 24 points in the second quarter, 23 points in third quarter, and 13 points in the fourth quarter. That trend is heading downward, as you can clearly see. We do not need that to continue, especially going into game 3. We scored 12 points in game 3 in first quarter. I don't want to see what this continues to look like. So we definitely need to come out with a fast intentions, blowing them all the way out and getting our offense going. That 34-point first quarter, that's what allowed for us to score so few in the next 3 quarters and still walk away with the win. You get yourself a big enough cushion, and sometimes if you struggle, you will allow yourself an opportunity to ultimately get the victory if you play good enough defense and hit your free throws, for which the Los Angeles Lakers have done a very good job of. In fact, in game 2, they hit all of their free throws, 20 for 20. And given the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves got there 25 times and hit 20, we were able to make up every single point they made up at the line for ourselves. And in game 1, the free throw discrepancy, I don't actually remember what it was, so I just like to look at it. We got to the line 16 times, hit 14 of them, so that was also pretty good. 87%, we could live with that. They got there 10 times and hit 8 of them. So we just want to continue to win that battle. Get to the line, hit your free throws. We've only missed 2 free throws in this series so far. That's fantastic. But yeah, man, it's just certain things I'm expecting. In game 1, we had 15 assists. They had 29. In game 2, we were able to flip that on its axis and walk away with 23 assists to their 14. I expect something to balance out there. We need to keep our assists up, and that means more ball movement and less ISO ball, particularly Luka ISO ball. It just does not let our other players who need to be more so focused on the offense for what their strengths are get involved in the offense. So that is what I think ultimately this always comes back around to, is how much Luka ball are we playing, and how much does it get our guys off to cold starts and ultimately keep them from being in rhythm, which contributes to our overall shooting percentages and maybe even our intensity in some cases. So this hasn't been a world beater series for the Lakers. We know that, man. We're tied 1-1. We won a rock fight game in this series. We've yet to look like ourselves offensively. I think our defense looked really good in game 2. I don't know how much of that I want to contribute to us just playing overall great defense, or the Minnesota Timberwolves just playing terrible with their bench, because they have been very inconsistent through 2 games. Naz Reid had 9 points in game 2. DiVincenzo had 4 points in game 2. Nickeil had 4 points in game 2. Shannon got 2 points in game 2 with 7 minutes. Mike Conley didn't score Rudy Gobert only had 6 points. McDaniels only had 8 points. They didn't get a whole lot out of anybody, which is why they scored their season low 85 points against us in game 2. But in game 1, you saw the Minnesota Timberwolves light the world on fire, as I said, shooting 50% from the field and the 3 basically. And they had 25 points out of McDaniels, where he only missed 2 shots on 13 attempts, hit all his threes. You saw Mike Conley have 9 points in that game. You saw Naz Reid go for a big game, 23 points on 8 of 12 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3. Us scheming him open was pretty trash. Don't want to let that happen. DiVincenzo scored 9 points. Alexander Walker scored 7 points. What I can say is Nickeil Alexander-Walker has not played well on the road. What I can also say is in the highlights that I watched prior to game 1, he looked great at home. I expect for this to be a very big game for the others of the Minnesota Timberwolves, particularly Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's just been cold, man. He's been cold in pretty much both of these games. I don't expect for that to continue. DiVincenzo, I expect for him to hit some momentum shots tonight. We need to weather the storm on something like that, because this could be a night where he goes for 22 points. You know what I mean? Just off the strength of the crowd, this being a playoff game, he could be a better performer than he's shown. Mike Conley was scoreless in the last game. I do not expect for that to continue. Julius Randle has not scored a whole lot in this game. In game 1, he had 16 points. In game 2, let's see where he's at. I'd imagine it wasn't much better than that. Actually, it was. He really did have a good game in game 2. 27 points, he bounced back. He was one of the few people who was actually able to score for their team. I expect for him to continue to stay in rhythm, as that being the case. Going back home to Minnesota, he has a lot to prove. And he usually does play well off the home crowd. We know that. We had him here for about 4 years. So Jaden McDaniels having a cold night in game 2. I expect for him to bounce back. He's going to be more like game 1's Jaden McDaniels. And so we just need to be ready for an overall improvement and adjustment and just overall progression to their shooting from game 2 to game 3. They're a much better offensive team than that. That was the lowest amount they scored all season. I don't expect you can beat the Minnesota Timberwolves scoring 94 points on most nights. You may get one game in that vein. Otherwise, you had better get over 100 points, or you're likely going to lose to this basketball team. And so that's something that it really needs to be understood. Our offense must get better. Minnesota scored before that Laker game 1, 116 against the Jazz, 117 against Brooklyn, 143 against the Memphis Grizzlies, 110 against Bucks, 114 against Philly, 105 against Brooklyn before that, 140 against the Nuggets, 123 against Detroit, 124 against Phoenix. You know, and before that it was a 103 to 119 loss to the Pacers. So since 3/28, March 28th, they've been scoring almost 124 points every single night. And we need to understand that they're gonna start to get back to that. They've only had one game where they didn't score well, and that was game 2 where we just saw. They're gonna want to run it up tonight. So if we can't get our offense going against this team, it's a healthy prediction that we're gonna lose tonight, because they don't score like this. That's not how they operate. That's not how they win. So kudos to our defense, but they're not gonna shoot poorly at home. I don't think. Not nearly as poorly as we need them to if we want to win, scoring 94 points. So that's really where my head is, man. It's just certain things like that. You know, we appreciate that we won one game in this series through 2 games. And we understand that we're not out of the woods based on certain things that we don't expect to continue that worked in our favor. And the fact that we just can't seem to score anything against this team, as we've mentioned many times. Now we have a 4 out of 6 game sample size where we scored under 100 points against the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, you lost 3 of those 4 games. It doesn't work. So that's what I really walk into this game having just legitimate concerns about, even though we're coming off a victory. I just don't think that victory really tells the story about what's necessary to win a series against this team. And we're still in the doghouse. And it could have very easily lost game 2 if they would have shot better. So we got work to do, man. We got a lot of work to do. We got to continue to keep the game physical. We came out and hit them in the mouth with physicality in game 2. I thought that was extremely important for the rest of this series. We're just going to have to win that type of battle. And it's going to be hard to do because they may have more depth and more capable physical players. but we just have to continue to hit them in the mouth and bully them to the best of our ability, just like they bullied us in game one. So that's how it went. Now the game is even. The series is even, rather. Not only as it pertains to the record, but also as it pertains to both teams struggled. Both teams lost the games they struggled in. Both teams need to play better in game three, or the mental edge will probably go to the opponent. And so this is an extremely, extremely important basketball game, just like every game in the playoffs. But I think this one really tells the story about what you can expect from the Lakers from an offensive perspective. If we can't score over 100 points tonight, I have real concerns about what's going to happen for the rest of this series. It's just the styles that these teams play ultimately force us into looking like we're just not able to score. And if we were playing against somebody else, I don't think this would be a problem. But because of how they're able to defend us with their personnel, it just makes for a very ugly rock fight type of game. And we need them to dumb down their shooting just like they did in game two in order to win that. That doesn't look good. So the Lakers are going to have to find a way to push through their defense, push through all these different things, and find ways of scoring the ball. And I believe it starts with continuing to get to the line for where we've had success. Draw fouls as much as possible, get people in foul trouble as much as possible, be as physical in the paint as you can, win in the fast break, and do get back on defense. The three-point shots either fall or they don't, but we have to scheme ball movement in order to see success. And remember, you were able to win the game because you defended very well. So don't lose your principles on the defensive end trying to overcorrect for the offense. Your offense is essential, but your defense will help you win a rock fight. And this series so far has been a rock fight. So that's really what it is, man. Ain't too much talking left to say. The Los Angeles Lakers have a big game today, man. 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Eastern in Minnesota. The crowd will be loud. We know how they get down. They're very, very proud right now. They've been making the playoffs over the last couple of years after long, long drought. This is a very hungry franchise that is yet to win a championship. Only been around since like 1989 or something like that. They ain't been around that long, but they do have a lot of pride, and we do need to punch them in the mouth. BDF 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.